I was like, damn, like the more I make this sad music, like the sadder I get.
It's gotta be a really good sad song. For it to be really good, you have to be sad, you know? You just dive into the darkness more, and it gets to a point.
The singer isn't afraid to tell The Guardian, the past couple of albums, I do get back to using drugs as a crutch.
Using drugs to spark inspiration to write on his newest record.
The tragedy of Mac Miller's story feels like it's happening all over again, this time with The Weeknd. The similarities between The Weeknd and Mac Miller aren't just small coincidences. They are almost identical patterns playing out in different timelines. Mac Miller's death left the world in shock. But the truth is, you were only shocked if you weren't really listening. The people who were paying attention were devastated, heartbroken by what happened, but they weren't surprised because the signs were always there.
That was the death that impacted me the most because I listened to a lot of his music and I had my own substance abuse and mental health problems. And when I heard Faces coming out, I was like, yo, this man's in trouble, like heavy, heavy trouble. Like every song was about, yo, I'm gonna die today, I'm gonna die tomorrow, I'm gonna check, I'm not gonna make it to rehab.
When you listen to The Weeknd's music, the subject matter feels very familiar. Depression, trauma, and self-destructive thoughts. It mirrors a lot of what Mac Miller used to express. If you listen to his latest album, Hurry Up Tomorrow, you are hearing a man who's suffering, a man who genuinely believes he could lose his life at any moment. But outside of the music, everything looks perfect. He's one of the biggest artists in the world, billion-dollar tours, massive deals, constant success. In interviews, he presents himself as someone who struggled with addiction but overcame it, someone who is sober now and living a healthier life.
So The Weeknd is sober light. He talked about his sobriety and he said he still smokes weed, drinks a little bit, but he doesn't do hard drugs.
In the case of The Weeknd, does that sound like someone who may actually have a serious problem and they're only half dealing with it, if even that? Maybe there's avoiding the real issue.
Yeah, and I think he even said it in his quote that, you know, he wasn't willing to do the deep work that's necessary to get into recovery, right? That's what he says in the article. If you're an addict like me, there is no sober light. There is no California sober. The minute I put a mind-altering substance in my system, I'm off and running.
And that's where it starts to feel familiar because Mac did the exact same thing. His last interviews made it seem like he had finally dealt with his demons. He made it a point to reassure people that he was sober, that he was in a good place.
I was asking about drugs and alcohol and where he was. We'd have a quick second eye to eye where we just have a moment and just be like, what, you good? He'd be like, yeah, I'm good. Or he'd say like, you know, he'd be honest with me. Well, you know, I'm drinking now, but I'm good. I got this, blah, blah, blah. And he always made you feel he was okay. He was happy.
Your first reaction is, let me tell them I'm cool. Everything is, you know, be fine.
Abel in recent years has been heavily downplaying his abuse of substances. But when you actually listen to him, you hear something else completely. When he says on his latest album, no matter what I tell the world, we are always locked in. You pick me up when I'm low. That's not about a woman. He also speaks directly to his fans on the album by telling them he's been lying the whole time. He's still using and he's still struggling. He sings about his face being bloated and moments where he was briefly paralyzed, effects that are often linked to a certain substance, if you know. He admits his tolerance isn't what it used to be. His body feels everything a lot more now. And through all of that, he still has to step outside and pretend he's okay. Whenever these people try to open up, the pushback is always the same. You're rich and famous, you have nothing to be sad about.
I have a tortured soul, you know what I mean? And us with tortured souls, sometimes you try and numb the things that hurt your tortured soul.
What are your problems though? You have like the nicest family ever. Your mom's the nicest lady in the world.
Rich.
You know, it's funny because you talk to people and they say, you know, what do you have to be depressed about? You have money and da 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 da.
Both Abel and Mac are loved for how raw and honest they are in their music. They put their pain into it in the purest way possible, and that's the music that people connect to the most. But that creates pressure because in order to make that kind of music, you often have to be in that same dark place. And for both of them, that darkness was often tied to depression, isolation, and substances.
It started by me just sitting inside all day. And then it's like, then you get bored. Then you're like, well, I could just be high and I could have a whole adventure in this room. That's more dangerous than actually LA is just kind of just sitting there by myself all the time, you know, it becomes toxic.
Before the release of his album After Hours, in a CR magazine interview, The Weeknd speaks about spending most of his days alone, rarely wanting to leave his house, and further speaks about the gift and curse of isolation. When asked if he still uses, he said, "I have an on and off relationship with it. It doesn't consume my life, but occasionally it helps me open up my mind, especially when I'm creating." This wasn't the first time he alluded to needing substances to say things he couldn't say sober. Unfortunately, that became a part of his sound, and when people love that version of you, it becomes something they expect. I remember receiving a call from my best friend, and he was so hyped to tell me The Weeknd wouldn't be making any more daytime music. To us, it meant a return to those super raw and dark, uncompromising records, but we didn't really think about what that came with. Now on his latest album, he talks about having to take a hit because if he doesn't, his fans won't feel the music. Almost as if he's saying the ones he made while sober were never the ones we truly connected with.
It's almost like when you listen to The Weeknd shit, like you really listen and you're like, oh, The Weeknd might have a drug problem.
Yeah, I love that though.
Man, I miss when The Weeknd was on drugs.
Mac went through this as well. He realized that the sadder the music he made, the sadder he became.
Because I didn't want it to be depressing because you have to exist in the world you create. So if I make a depressing album, my whole tour is depressing, then the energy is depressing, which is a beautiful thing sometimes, but I just didn't feel like spending 4 more depressed months.
But your mission was to create an album that wasn't that
wasn't depressing.
He tried to change that with his album Good AM, and it somewhat worked, but people still wanted the version of him they were used to, the version of him that's in the most pain. And that's the trap. Because without being in that mental state, without the substances, it becomes much harder to reach that same emotional depth. And that's exactly what the audience expects from The Weeknd. That's what the audience expected from Mac Miller.
That's what the music industry is, right? They want your sadness.
Yeah.
And you gotta just keep turning them out.
Yeah.
And it's gotta be good. It's gotta be really good sad song. And for it to be really good, you have to be fucking sad, you know? I can make sad songs, but the best sad songs are the ones that, you know, it really happened to you. I don't know if I wanna be in that place anymore because unfortunately as a songwriter, you might have to put yourself in those positions. You know, maybe you just dive into the darkness more, and I don't wanna be in my 40s and 50s still making work that I can't, you know, detach myself from it.
A lot of you guys have been asking me for the beats I use in these videos. I appreciate the love. If you're interested in them, just email me. Back to the video. Another striking parallel is their work ethic. Mac worked like someone who never felt like he had arrived. Even after the success and the wealth, it was still just a studio for him, day in and day out.
All I did for 2.5 years, everyone's like, where you been? Where you been? Where you been? It was just me in this room with the door closed making music. I stay in one room only, the studio. I literally never, it's actually disgusting.
Where does that work ethic come from, do you think? Why are you so driven to constantly create?
I want to make something that didn't exist before, and that's kind of impossible. So, yeah, I guess I'm chasing the impossible.
He barely went outside. He made countless songs that never even got released. He didn't know how to relax.
Nothing mattered more to him than music ever.
He recorded a full project with Pharrell and never put it out.
You know, I have thousands of songs that no one hears.
There's thousands of songs that you've made that you haven't even released?
I mean, I made 3 last night.
The Weeknd is the exact same way. In just 4 years, he's dropped 3 albums, created a TV series, written and starred in a film, and gone on a stadium tour that's made over $1 billion. He's been on this tour since 2022, and it's still not finished.
I'm not trying to take a break anytime soon.
Clearly, bro, you're back with a new album. I mean, literally a year pretty much after you released your breakout record. I mean,
I was shocked when I found out Dawn FM was started while After Hours was still being finished.
Dawn FM actually weirdly dates back to the After Hours album because Ilangelo was on one side of the studio and I was on the other. I was writing new stuff and Ilangelo was wrapping up After Hours. We never stopped.
Hurry Up Tomorrow began taking shape around the time that Dawn FM was released. There is no off switch for him. For some reason, he's always in constant motion. There were nights on tour where The Weeknd would perform for 3 hours and then wake up early the next morning to be on set for the show The Idol.
We shot the show, a lot of it at my house, and we set up a studio in the basement. You know, after long shifts, after shooting for hours, we'd go to the studio and be inspired and start creating the music.
This is brilliant that you actually are putting a film out.
Yeah.
But you sing in the film.
I do sing in the film. I had to sing in the film, but my album wasn't done yet, so I had to finish songs like day before scenes. The lyrics and the melody.
Was that nerve-wracking?
Yeah.
At a certain point, it stops feeling impressive. It starts to become more of an escape than it is passion. The stage, the studio, the whole Weeknd persona, it all just becomes a way to avoid facing himself. It's another addiction slowly feeding into the self-destruction of the man.
Well, usually when something traumatic happens to me, I either write a song or I'll make an album, or that's usually been my therapy. I've dealt with things, and I've always been able to go out there and rely on, like you said, like the superpower that I have.
Sometimes you try and numb the things that hurt your tortured soul, but in reality, you can't. You have to face your problems. You can't push them down. And
when you push yourself that hard day in and day out, eventually something has to give. The crash is inevitable. For Mac Miller, there were moments like the night he crashed his car into a light pole. That moment was one of the wake-up calls where he realized he needed help.
Drove home drunk, but it was the best thing that could have happened. Best thing that could have happened. I needed that. I needed to run into that light pole. I lived a certain life for 10 years and faced almost no real consequence.
For Abel, it came when he lost his voice on stage.
I can't give you what I want to give you right now. I apologize. I'm so sorry. I love you guys so much.
That moment hit him hard because it took away the one thing he always relied on. For the first time, he couldn't escape into performance. He couldn't rely on the Weeknd.
I was juggling a million things at the time, and I was on tour, dealing with personal stuff as well too. But that's happened before. I was able to still rely on my superpower. I can go on stage and it's this cathartic experience with the fans. I can shut my world off for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and just lose myself in my performance. And it got to a point where, oh my God, I can't give them what they want. My voice is failing me.
After that traumatizing situation, Abel started teasing the idea of retiring the Weeknd, ending the persona entirely. What that actually looks like, even he isn't sure.
And it could just be a hiatus. It could just be me being like, just stop overthinking, stop working. You did it.
But obviously, stepping away isn't as simple as it sounds. This isn't just a job for him, it's his life, and he doesn't really know anything else. It's similar to athletes who retire and suddenly start struggling with depression. They have been stripped of the thing they've devoted their entire lives to.
What does a retiree, a 32-year-old retiree who's worth $100 million spend their days?
Trying to find out who the fuck he is. Miserable.
You gotta refine yourself. If anybody say this shit is fun, this shit ain't fun. Niggas get fat, they lose their mind. Look, I tell y'all, enjoy that shit. Enjoy the hoes, the clothes, all that.
After a crazy 2025, dropping a new album, headlining a stadium tour, and starring in a movie, he's back again this year, already working on new music, and gearing up for 2 more legs of his After Hours Till Dawn stadium tour.
I can't completely be gone because I'm on a tour right now, so.
Clearly, he isn't slowing down, and we've already seen the toll that obsession has taken on him. Fame is something most of us won't truly understand until we experience it. That's why it's so hard to sympathize with someone who seems to have it all, which is a part of why so many people didn't grasp why Mac Miller wasn't okay. We are not only unsympathetic, we can be ruthless to public figures. A lot of Mac's depression came from fame and the constant scrutiny on social media.
I think it started
with success.
Yeah. Fame is tricky because you read what's said about you, then you know what you know to be true, and the lines start to blur.
Things spiraled again after his breakup and that accident in 2018. He was being relentlessly mocked online.
When all the press happened, right, with the breakup and the DUI, and which we'll get to, it was just too much, like I'm looking on the internet and I'm like I already have my own feelings and emotions and thoughts about what I've went through. So why the fuck am I gonna have room for all of these? What?
And even afterwards, when he announced his album Swimming, there were so many dumb kids on the internet clowning him because Travis Scott was dropping on the same day.
When Astroworld was dropping, what are you doing, Mac Miller? Keep it. Who listens to Mac Miller still? Keep it, Chief. We got Astroworld coming tonight. those same kids are saying RIP, as if y'all were not contributing to the dismissiveness of someone's talent.
The internet has been brutal to The Weeknd over the past few years. His first attempt at acting immediately went viral. He became a meme instantly.
Let me catch you looking at her again. Let me catch you looking at her again. I'm not. Let me catch you looking at her again.
And then in 2025, it happened again with his movie.
Shut up. I'm literally on tour.
How do I connect with social media?
Yeah.
I try not to. I just try to stay away from it as much as possible. Anybody that was great failed 100 times. Yeah. You know, sometimes their failures are privately, you know, in silence, and sometimes it's broadcasted for the whole world to see.
All of this didn't sit well with him. Sure, he's joked about it in interviews. He responded to some people being funny on Twitter. All of this craziness probably pushed him further into his head and into his vices. I don't doubt that The Weeknd is trying to get better, but anyone who has seen addiction up close understand that it's a constant daily battle. I have family members and childhood friends that deal with this, and it's extremely tough to stay sober. I pray that he's able to fight his demons and beat them. And maybe this is where we as fans also need to move differently. We don't need new music more than we need these artists to be okay. We already have the albums. We can go back to them at any time. But if something happens, there's no coming back from that. If the culture cared more about the artist's well-being than the product, maybe things will be different. Maybe they wouldn't feel as much pressure to stay in dark places just to create. This video is for anybody dealing with addiction and fighting every day for their sobriety. Rest in peace, Mac Miller.